We begin at this hour in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, where President Bola Tinubu has approved the naming of the M18 road infrastructure in Gusape district, Abuja, after late renowned novelist Chinua Achebe. The president stated this during his address at the inauguration of the road in Abuja on Saturday, June 8. This was contained in a post by the special assistant to the president on social media, Olusegun Dada, on his X handle on Saturday. Now, before we look at some other updates on the new minimum wage deliberations, let's tell you that one issue that has over the years been a constant source of conflict in Nigeria is the incessant clashes between farmers and herders. These clashes have always resulted in the constant loss of lives and livelihoods. To address this, an anti-open grazing bill has now advanced past the second reading in the National Assembly. The bill seeks to establish controlled herder mobility. To further discuss this, I'm joined on the news by a lawyer and political analyst, Taiwo Ojomo. Thank you so much, Taiwo Ojomo, for joining us on the news.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this anti-grazing bill has undergone several names: ranching scheme, ruga settlement scheme, open grazing prohibition, and ranches establishment law, and the likes. Well, in all of this, would these address the violent clashes between farmers and herders?
Well, thank you very much. If you ask me, I think it's beyond the name. If at the end of the day, the bill becomes a law, I believe that to a very large extent, it will go a long way in addressing if it is fully implemented, it will go a long way in addressing the cattle, the elder farmer clashes that have been a main issue in the country. But beyond that, I also believe that it will address it. Apart from addressing it, I think in the early days of the law, if it becomes a law eventually, there will be reprisal attacks, as it were, because those who are used to the old ways will not want a change. But I believe eventually, as time goes on, if the government is sincere about implementing the law, if it becomes a law, like I said earlier, then I believe that it will go a long way in addressing the issue. Yeah.
So you just mentioned sincerity and, of course, how these will actually pan out, and, of course, reprisal attacks. Now, to put in a better perspective, now, senators from the northern region objected to the bill banning this open grazing talk, saying it is restrictive and discriminatory, while senators from the east said ranching is better to keep herds controlled. Now, for you, which would you say is better for the sake of peace, understanding, and for these businesses to continue to operate?
Right. Thank you. Now, why I agree that the right to movement is one that is guaranteed by the Constitution of Nigeria. It's also usually said that the right of one person or one citizen ends where that of others begin. That is, your right to move. Your right to freedom of movement does not mean that you should now go and trespass into someone else's property. So your right to movement ends where that of others begins. So, but beyond that, I am of the firm opinion that the issue of open grazing is one that belongs to the Stone Age and it should remain there. No modern society still practices such barbaric system, and so I'm 100% in support of banning of open grazing and the creation of cattle ranches. For instance, there are many other countries in the world that produce. That rare. They are bigger when it comes to rearing of cattle. US, we have India, we have Brazil, and what they practice is in line with modern practice. That is what's it called? Ranching. So that is Stone Age. So it has no place in modern society. Open grazing.
But there's still a bit of a comma in this particular bill. Now, according to what we understand, this bill seeks to establish ranches at herders' states. It's a bit unclear for some people, because we need to understand, is it the state of origin or the state of trade? If we can fully interpret that and understand that, maybe then we can move forward from this.
Yes, from my understanding, I think the bill that was that actually was, that originated from Senator I think Zam from Benue State, in that bill, it was proposed that ranching should be restricted to the elders state of origin.
Okay.
That is, if you are from Kebbi, for instance, now you have to. I mean, you have to create. You can only create your ranch within Kebbi State. But the problem with that is that in my own opinion, might offend the constitution. I mean, the provision of the constitution, because no Nigerian is more Nigerian than the other. But then I believe that all other states should be a bit more accommodating in terms of creation of ranches for elders. But for me, that part that states that, or that proposes that only the elders state should create a ranch, I think it should be expunged from that bill, if you ask me.
Okay, so finally, since you are going with the establishment of ranches as against open grazing, if we are going to have that across the 36 states of the Federation, are you certain that it would ensure access to grazing fields for those in the business? Do you think that will also reduce transport costs and ensure availability in markets of need? Because we need to also look at...
Okay, I think to a large extent it will. You may be aware that one of the leading causes of deaths in deaths in farming, food insecurity as it were, is this incessant incidents of clashes between elders and farmers. And so, if ranches are created, and if other states, if host states are magnanimous enough to accommodate elders, because these are Nigerians too, I feel that it will go a long way in reducing. I will not say that it will abolish it altogether, but it will, to a large extent, reduce it. Because the thing that, like I said earlier, those who are used to the old ways who want to fight change. So, but it will, to a large extent, reduce these incessant clashes, and of course, it will increase the food production generally in the country.
Taiwo Jumo, lawyer and political analyst, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me, Nico. Thank you.
All right. Now, away from that, Nigeria, of course, the state governors in the country have rejected the 60,000 naira minimum wage as earlier proposed by the federal government. Organized labor had turned down the proposal as being insufficient. In a statement issued on Friday by the Director of Media and Public Affairs for the Nigerian Governors Forum, Halima Ahmed, the governor said the proposed minimum wage is too high and not sustainable. The governors expressed concerns that if 60,000 naira is adopted as the minimum wage, many states will spend their entire federal allocations on salaries, leaving no resources for development projects. The NGF urged all parties involved in the negotiation process, particularly the labor unions, to consider all socio-economic factors and reach a sustainable agreement.
We had a very fruitful deliberation, and of course, it's a technical subcommittee of a committee. And at the level of our committee, we have reached near consensus, and it is our hope that by the time we get to the plenary, we will have a complete agreement, and maybe from there the media can start their job. But as it is now, I think we are better off than we were before the technical committee. So the meeting is not ended yet? The technical committee is over, and of course, it's a tripartite committee. We've struggled to reach an agreement, at least between the government and the organized private sector. We are still engaging the organized level, and I'm almost confident that in a few minutes from now, after the plenary, we would have reached a concrete agreement.
62,000 naira. Why? That's what they agreed to, because of course, this thing has gone on for 4 months, so they've done a lot of consultations, they've done a lot of negotiations and then deliberations, and they came up with that figure. Remember that figure had been on like 60,000 last time, 2 sittings or 3 sittings ago, and then came back and then topped to 62,000 and said that's a benchmark. Okay. So for them to accept that and to bring that forward, including the organized private sector, for them it's sustainable because they agreed to it. So I believe that that's what they can pay.
Now, a bill seeking to establish a federal college of agriculture in Aguila, Benue State, has received overwhelming acceptance during a public hearing at the National Assembly. The public hearing, which attracted stakeholders from various sectors, including education, agriculture, and government, saw widespread support for the bill. Speakers praised the initiative, highlighting the potential of the college to address the nation's agricultural challenges. The sponsor, Philip Adbese, who represents Ado Opoku Ogbadibo Federal Constituency, said the proposed institution is critical to Nigeria's food production and research. He noted that this is a significant step towards transforming Nigeria's agricultural sector and unlocking its full potential. MultiChoice Nigeria says it will appeal Friday's ruling of the Competition and Consumer Protection Tribunal in Abuja, which awarded a 150 million naira fine against it for challenging the court's jurisdiction. The tribunal had fined MultiChoice Nigeria of the sum of 150 million naira for disobeying its order. The order had restrained the pay TV company from increasing its monthly subscription pending the determination of the suit brought before it by an Abuja-based lawyer, Festus Onifade. The tribunal also ordered the pay TV company to provide its Nigerian customers with a 1-month free subscription to its DSTV and GoTV packages. MultiChoice, in a statement, disagreed with the ruling, saying it would file an appeal against it. We now tell you that a former president of the Nigerian Senate, Bukola Saraki, has lauded the Supreme Court's decision to overturn the Federal High Court's ruling on the alleged 3.5 billion naira fraud case involving Melrose General Services Limited. Saraki said the judgment validates his earlier assertion that the case was politically driven, aimed at targeting him for his Senate presidency during the Buhari administration. Saraki, speaking through his media aide, Yusuf Olanionu, emphasized the vindication following the Supreme Court's verdict on June 7 in Abuja. In April 2018, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission had claimed that Melrose General Services Limited fraudulently obtained 1.4 billion naira from the Nigerian Governors Forum, a charge now overturned by the recent ruling. Saraki added that allegations of Paris Club fraud were nothing more than a smokescreen designed to weaken the institution of his office. The House of Representatives has passed for the third reading the 2024 Supplementary Appropriation Bill for the Federal Capital Administration of about 98.5 billion naira. This was as the chairman of the House Committee on the Federal Capital Territory presented his committee's report, saying that the appropriation bill earlier presented by the president has been thoroughly scrutinized and should be considered for the needed development of the capital. The submission was then unanimously adopted by the House in the Committee of the Whole. Earlier, Vayala Kwaga, a senior researcher and policy analyst at Budget Foundation, spoke to us on this development.
Nigeria's past performance, the FCT's past performance when it comes to coming up with budgets, this is actually quite unusual. But with the new minister of the FCT being the infamous Wike, it's not particularly surprising. Wike is someone who I think is well known for implementing capital projects, as much as you might disagree with his politics. And looking at the communication and the commentary from residents of the FCT, it appears that he's actually putting paid to a lot of the beliefs about him in terms of infrastructure in the FCT. However, what is worrying, I suppose, would be the total amounts to date. There was recently a 1.2 trillion naira supplementary budget passed, I think a couple of months ago for the FCT, and plus this 98 billion is bringing the total budget, within these two very brief periods to about 1.3 trillion naira. And, that, be that as it may, we need to know how this money is being used, as it's used for projects. the FCT is notorious for not releasing its budgets. This is not just a Wike issue. In the course of my career and my dealings with the FCT in trying to get their budgets, in trying to get budget implementation reports, it's almost always next to impossible to get these documents. And it really speaks to the entrenched opacity of the FCT as regards, financial transparency and the need for citizens to know how much money is being generated, how much money is being spent, and how well that money is being spent. As much as Nigerians would be pleased and delighted to see the reports, delighted to see the infrastructure being constructed and, some level of goods and services being improved, public goods and services being improved because of that, there is the corresponding responsibility on government's side to provide this information and to have a willingness to explain to Nigerians why they spent this money in this manner and how they intend to raise money. On your point about revenue, the Nigerian political space, and I'm speaking federal level and state level, isn't very well known for having revenues and expenditure meeting themselves.
You're watching News Central now. We'll now go on a very short break, and when we return, we'll bring you more stories. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. We'll now tell you that the Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament has called for collaboration between the Parliament and the ECOWAS Commission to speedily tackle challenges affecting the sub-region. The Speaker, who had resumed office in Abuja following her appointment as the Speaker of the Parliament a few weeks ago, at the Parliament's extraordinary session, which was held in Kano, northwest Nigeria, says that there is a need for collaboration to tackle challenges affecting the community. She expressed confidence that challenges of insecurity, lack of integration among member states, and others can be tackled. The Speaker also took time to visit Nigeria's Deputy President of the Senate, Jibrin Bado, who also serves as the first Deputy Speaker of the regional parliament.
ECOWAS female parlement et à mettre en œuvre des programmes pour renforcer les capacités des femmes, que ce soit en politique.
I came to visit the President of the Commission for us to look into some of the issues around the Parliament, some of the challenges that the community is being faced in terms of security challenges, integration, and other issues. And then we also try to
The legislature is one of the three arms of government, and its primary role is to enact laws. In this report, News Central's Austin Azu examines the first-year performance of the 8th Assembly of the Delta State Legislature.
The legislature is the arm of government primarily responsible for enacting laws that focus on the progress and well-being of the state. In Delta State, the 8th Assembly was inaugurated on June 13, 2023, with a proclamation letter of the state governor, read by the clerk of the House.
I congratulate all the members-elect on your victory at the general elections held on the 18th of March 2023.
How have the 29 lawmakers of the state legislature performed their duties and oversight functions in the last 1 year?
The 8th Assembly, I restate my earlier position, have performed below average. They need to act as an assembly that can help to cushion the very difficult times that Deltas are in.
Not just me alone, so many persons are complaining because they are there to speak for us. And they too make laws that they cannot at least keep.
I am not going to praise them for the past 1 year because if you look at what is happening in the state at the moment, occasioned by rising cost of living, they have not in any way sent a bill to the state governor on issues affecting the people of the state.
Speaker of the House of Assembly, Emomitimi Gowo, during a press conference to celebrate the legislature's first anniversary, highlighted their achievements, including passing motions and resolutions focused on improving the welfare and security of Delta residents.
In the period under review, the House received a total of 18 bills, 15 executive bills and 3 private member bills. Out of the 18 bills, the following 9 bills have been passed and 3 assented to.
In response to reporters' questions about local government autonomy, the Speaker called the federal government's lawsuit against the 36 state governors an aberration.
I want to say that what the AGF has done for me is an aberration. Aberration in the sense that it is unconstitutional for the federal government to deduct at source from the states what belongs to the local governments.
While the Delta House of Assembly has a reputation for being vibrant, the real test lies in the impact on its citizens. Residents are looking for people-oriented legislation, effective oversight, and a strong check on the executive branch. In Delta, for News Central, Austin Azu.
Austin Azu, thank you so much for that package. Let's talk health now. The Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, has urged more residents to embrace voluntary blood donation to shore up the state's blood bank. Speaking as a representative of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu at the 20th anniversary of the Lagos State Blood Transfusion Committee, Abayomi said the state only had 130,000 donors, which was not enough. According to him, the voluntary donor rate is still on the low side, which means certain patients will be without access to blood. As the world prepares for the marking of World Blood Donor Day on June 14, the call for more blood donation is louder. Now, one question is, how significant is blood donation? Now, to help us understand this better, I'm being joined by Dr. Chukwuka Pascal Obodo, CEO and co-founder, My Medicare. Dr. Obodo, thank you so much for joining us on the news. Okay, I think we just... Dr. Obodo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
All right, fantastic. We can hear you too.
All right.
While we wait for your visuals, let's just get into it and get your response. What are the primary benefits of a voluntary blood donation, particularly in addressing shortages in a state's blood bank?
Okay, all right. So thank you very much for that. Number one on the list is a lot of life can be saved if blood is donated. Okay, starting from people that they have trauma, accident cases that you need a lot of blood, to those that have certain blood disorders like sickle cell disease. From time to time, they might have anemia, and there is need for blood transfusion. Okay, the other part to it is it ensures that we have enough blood within in the blood bank, okay, and just in case of emergency, and there's a lot of people that need blood. So having voluntary blood transfusion can play a significant role as regards to that. Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'd like you to elaborate more on the specific challenges or factors now contributing to the low voluntary donor rate, especially in Lagos State.
Okay. Well, number one on the list is people have a lot of misconceptions and beliefs, okay, about blood transfusion. So people believe that giving blood to someone is not the proper thing to do. Also, when you look at the cultural and religious background, certain religious groups don't believe in blood transfusion. Okay, they don't give blood, and they also don't receive blood from someone. Okay, so and also awareness. Okay, many people are not really aware on that there's need for them to give blood. You see a lot of patients that now people that have steady state PCV, and of course sufficient blood that can easily be given out to people, but because of the fact that they don't even know, they don't remember to voluntarily donate blood.
Okay, so I'm hoping, I've never donated blood before, but I'm hoping to do that in days or months or maybe years to come. But for someone who wants to, for someone who wants to venture into that, are there health risks that one may need to consider, or health protocols that one would need to observe before we begin to, donate one's blood to blood banks?
Okay, yeah, of course. The person will have to be a lot more careful as to the exposure to people. For example, if you're sexually active, it's very important to, as much as possible, use contraceptives, because there are certain, bloodborne infections that can be contracted via sex. Okay. In addition to that, person should eat very well, check your PCB as frequently as possible. And there is actually a duration when you give blood. Blood donation is not something like you do monthly. Okay, you have to something like I do like most like twice in a year. So it's not something that people have to like do every single month, because at the end of the day, it can actually have effect on the person's health. Yes.
All right, so finally, considering the upcoming World Blood Donor Day, what initiatives rather, or strategies can be implemented to now begin to encourage more citizens to participate in voluntary blood donation efforts?
Okay, so just like we are doing now, okay, I'm sure a lot of people are listening to TV. Are watching the TV, and so social campaigns via social media, traditional routes, newspapers, TVs, radios. Okay, just to get people to be much more aware about the need for them to, donate blood. Other things are community engagement, engage communities, do like a blood drive where people, actively, you engage communities to, speak to them on the need for them to give blood and the health benefits of, donating blood, okay? In addition to that, and also generally more of campaigns and providing facilities that where the blood can safely kept, because blood is not something you might handle, because when it's taken, it has to be given to someone else. So adequately set up healthcare facilities that can properly store this blood and make them available when there's need.
Okay, Dr. Chukwuka Obodo, CEO and co-founder My Medicare, thank you so much for sharing your expert details, of course, with us. We appreciate that.
All right, thank you. Take care. Bye.
All right, wish you all the best too. Now, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention says the number of confirmed Lassa fever cases have increased significantly, resulting in a cumulative 162 deaths in 2024. The agency also urged the public to adhere to recommended safety protocols and to report any symptom to local health authorities promptly. The NCDC said on Saturday via its official website that the country registered 10 cases of Lassa fever across 4 states in 1 week, spanning between the 20th and the 26th of May. The rising prevalence of dementia among Nigeria's aging population amidst a lack of health infrastructure needed for its management is a source of worry for healthcare practitioners and stakeholders. While the majority of persons living with dementia are found in low-income countries, factors like lack of awareness, diagnosis, and expertise puts more people at risk, and these needs to be addressed. News Central's Adeshewo Dushoga examines this health concern.
As of 2015, an estimated 2.13 million people were living with dementia in sub-Saharan Africa. And this number is projected to nearly double every 20 years, increasing to 3.48 million by 2030 and 7.62 million by 2050. 72-year-old Madam Kudirat Mustafa is one of the millions of persons living with dementia in Africa. A resident of Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria, Madam Kudirat has been living with dementia for more than a decade, an illness that began from the amputation of one of her legs after being diagnosed of diabetes. Mama also struggles with her sense of hearing.
Ọmọlúwo ni mí. Ọmọ Ọ̀fà ni mí. Ọ̀fà in Kwara State. Kwara State, yes.
Victoria is Madam Kudirat Mustafa's daughter-in-law and also doubles as her caregiver, a responsibility she took up since her mother-in-law was diagnosed with dementia. Victoria had to switch careers as an accountant to being a caregiver and a school teacher to afford her time to better care for her mother-in-law of more than 18 years.
It was after the amputation we discovered that she was losing memory. She couldn't remember simple things like her name. She was mixing up the faces of the children. She would call this one another person's name. And then she would wake up in the middle of the night and be asking that it's in the morning she wants to go out. You know, that was when we noticed that. And then we didn't know much about dementia. I was hearing it. I've not actually known or read anything about dementia until she started exhibiting those symptoms, and it was worrisome because she'll wake up at 2 a.m. and she'll be insisting somebody wants to buy something from our provision store, come and open the door. I was like, provision store that you have left some years ago back in the north, who is buying something at 2 a.m.?
Dementia is one of the major causes of disability and dependency among older people globally. It has physical, psychological, social, and economic impact, not only for people living with it, but also for the carers, families, and society at large. Victoria also shares the same fate as a carer, especially in Nigeria.
Caring for somebody with dementia is very, very burdensome because, like, you know, we're told as the disease progresses, they begin to lose the ability to do basic things for themselves. Bathing, knowing the proper place to go to ease themselves, you know, it becomes difficult. They will lose. Sometimes they will, you know, mistakenly or accidentally do it on themselves, and you will like, you know, those kind of a thing. And you will think they are deliberately doing it. But most times it's not deliberate. It's just that at that moment they become confused. They don't know which way to take. Sometimes she can go to the kitchen and she will tell you she's going to the toilet.
Dr. Timitokpe Farumbi is a geriatric neurologist at the University College Hospital in Ibadan, where Madam Kudirat is being managed. While speaking to us, she dispels the common myth associated with dementia, especially in this part of the world, and emphasized the need to raise awareness.
Dementia is getting worse, as in the prevalence is getting worse. However, it is the knowledge is really, really low in this part of the world because people often misconstrue dementia for other spiritual cause, or they misconstrue it as mental illness, and that has a lot of stigma attached to it. So people don't even want to come out to show what is actually wrong with their loved ones, because people can tag their parent as being a witch or a wizard, and then nobody wants to associate themselves with that. I know that we have National Senior Citizen Center that was established about a year or so ago, and they are doing a lot in the social welfare of older adults, but it's still like a drop in the ocean at the moment. It's a lot there. It's a sector that needs a lot of funding and support.
While the numbers of persons living with dementia in Africa are recorded in millions, there are chances that the numbers could be more amidst underdiagnosis and misdiagnosis shrouded in myth. There is also a need for the government to further raise awareness, create an enabling environment for caregivers, and adequate health facility for senior citizens in the country. In Ibadan, Oyo State, for News Central, Adeshewa Odushoga.
From health talks to education, in a major boost for science, technology, engineering and mathematics, STEM education, Borno State has launched a scholarship program worth over 4.8 billion naira. The program will award scholarships to 524 postgraduate students from the state, allowing them to pursue their master's and doctoral degrees at universities worldwide. News Central's Mari Krawa completes the report.
This initiative is a strategic investment in Borno's future. By educating its citizens, the state government aims to combat insurgency and cultivate a skilled workforce that can drive economic growth and innovation.
I couldn't imagine. Is this truly me? Will this dream be possible be true? I say, wow, I have to go and bow and thank my Almighty. And I wish how my father is alive to witness this great moment that his son will be traveling for a foreign scholarship.
For the students, particularly the vulnerable, is a one giant renewed hope that comes to their rescue. That is the award of over 4.5 billion naira for the scholarship of postgraduates, both local and foreign scholarship that was being awarded by His Excellency Professor Babagana Umar Zulum.
Governor Babagana Zulum expressed hope that the program will position the state as a hub for innovation and technological advancement.
136 will undertake PhD programs, while 388 will pursue master degree programs.
From May 2023 to date, His Excellency has disbursed 5,237,838,366 naira, apart from the 4.5 billion we are disbursing today.
The governor enjoined the recipients to utilize the opportunity to pursue their academic endeavors with diligence and dedication.
We are also planning another big program to send no less than 100 undergraduate students from Borno State. We need an educational system that will create jobs, but not paper qualification.
The scholarship recipients are excited for this opportunity to advance their education and contribute meaningfully to Borno's development.
We pledge to make the best use of this opportunity to repay your generosity by making meaningful contributions to our communities.
With the hope for more intellectual growth, pathways are now opened, needed to drive innovation and progress in critical fields for the development of Borno and humanity as a whole. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Let's take you to East Africa, where two alleged lesbians said to be seeking to get married have been arrested in the Comoros, where same-sex relationships are forbidden. The women are being detained in a prison in the Indian Ocean Archipelago's capital, Moroni, pending a court appearance, and could face up to 2 years imprisonment or a €600 fine. The allegations against the women seem to have surfaced following controversy over a lesbian wedding in neighboring Mayotte. Home to an 870,000-strong, mainly Muslim population, the Comoros introduced legislation against same-sex sexual activity in 1981, 6 years after independence from France. Away from that, we tell you that the Israeli military on Saturday said its troops had rescued 4 Israeli hostages alive from Gaza after a complex daytime operation. The army named the rescued hostages as Noah Agamani, 25 years, Almog Milyan, 21 years, Andrei Koslov, 27 years, and Shlomi Ziv, 40 years. According to the military, all 4 were kidnapped by Hamas militants from the Nova Music Festival on October 7. Israel's Army spokesman, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, said the operation took place in 2 separate buildings in the heart of a civilian neighborhood.
They will undergo medical examination and will soon be reunited with their families in the hospital. Noah, Almog, Andrei, and Shlomi were rescued after 246 days in Hamas captivity after they were brutally kidnapped from the Nova Musical Festival on the 7th of October. This was a high-risk complex mission based on precise intelligence conducted in daylight in 2 separate buildings deep inside Gaza. While under fire inside the buildings, under fire on the way out from Gaza, our forces rescued our hostages. Israeli forces have been preparing for this rescue mission for weeks. They underwent intensive training. They risked their lives to save the lives of our hostages.
Talking business now, Uganda suffered a rare nationwide electricity blackout for several hours on Friday. Its state-run power grid operator said, adding that electricity was gradually restored later in the afternoon. The grid shutdown happened during the testing of a newly completed Chinese-built $1.5 billion 600 megawatt hydropower plant on the Nile River in the country's north. This has been confirmed by Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited in a post on the X platform. Uganda has an installed power generation capacity of 2,000 megawatts, according to the energy minister. It generates more power than it consumes and has been exploring the possibility of exporting the surplus to neighbors like South Sudan and Kenya. African Development Bank said that the continent needs quicker debt restructurings, more favorable lending terms, and some $25 billion for the Africa Development Fund to avoid a lost decade, according to its president, Akinwumi Adesina. AFDB president adds that the continent has suffered from long fiscal COVID and the world has not done enough to help it move past the punishing years of the pandemic and global interest rate hikes, which had tipped several countries into default. Adesina also called for a $25 billion replenishment of the African Development Fund, the concessional arm of the African Development Bank that lends to vulnerable countries. Nigeria's inflation rate is predicted to stabilize at 14% in 2029, indicating a potential end to the current upward trend, according to the latest data from the International Monetary Fund. This projection comes as a relief amidst concerns over the increasing inflation rate, which currently stands at 33.69% as of April 2024. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, a variation from the IMF's prediction of 24.6% in the year. The IMF data suggests that the inflation rate will gradually decline from 23% in 2025 to 16% in 2026, 15.4% in 2027, and 14% both in 2028 down to 2029. This predicted stabilization is believed to be a welcome development for the Nigerian economy, which has been grappling with rising inflation and interest rates. Straight to sports. Nasarawa United began their quest to return to the Nigeria Premier Football League with a nervy victory over El Kanemi Warriors in the Nigerian National League playoffs. The Solid Miners defeated El Kanemi Warriors 1-0 at the playoffs in Enugu via a free kick from Moyi Hazan in the 25th minute. El Kanemi Warriors failed to get the equalizer at the death from the spot when Nasiru Salihu's shot hit the crossbar. The Solid Miners will take on Sokoto United in their next game on Monday, and a win will secure the NPFL ticket. We also tell you that WBO mini flyweight champion Oscar Collazo retained his title against Nicaraguan Geraldo Zapata at the Turning Stone Casino in Verona, New York on Friday night. In the first round, Zapata scored with a big right to the chin as Collazo just managed to hear the bell for the end of round 2. However, Collazo came back to take round 3 and began to outwork Zapata, but never looked like stopping his opponent. In the 12th and last round, both fighters threw a lot of punches, but it was Collazo who proved the better fighter and retained his title. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, we take a look at some of our top stories again. Nigeria's parliament backs bill to establish Federal College of Agriculture. MultiChoice Nigeria announces plans to appeal tribunals, 150 million naira fine and free subscription. Finally, we told you that Comoros arrests 2 women reportedly seeking to wed. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. And you can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onobanjo.